We are going to be changing the way people work. We're going to be bringing AI team members into the room, into the business. We're going to be bringing AI into the workflow. That is kind of a seismic change, probably the biggest we'll have ever seen in our careers. And having the change manager in the room to help with that process, I think, is going to be key.
Ben Walder is the Head of Change, Innovation and AI at Allied Irish Bank and co-author of the Visual Agile Coach Playbook. With an impressive track record across banking, asset management and fintech, he's known for turning complex change portfolios into measurable value. Ben's here to challenge how you think about innovation and show you how to make it stick.
Banking is a very regulated industry, and obviously there's a lot of control in place. How are you finding implementing a culture of innovation in a space that's so highly regulated?
Working in a regulated environment does call for innovation in how you can optimise and deliver the most value within what the regulations will allow. Some people's definition of innovation is going to be the moonshot, the man on Mars, etc. But I feel you can innovate with ways of working, you can innovate with your relationships or your interaction with other teams, innovate in how you have meetings. You can innovate with pretty much everything.
Today, I'm joined by Ben Walder, Head of Change, Innovation and AI at Allied Irish Bank, and also author of the Visual Agile Coach Playbook. Good to have you on the session, Ben. Thank you very much for taking time out. Now, you've played a pivotal role over the years in harnessing emerging technologies, fostering agile cultures, and working especially in regulated environments. I wondered if you could maybe just expand, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I think you pretty covered my full introduction, so I'll go with that. It was better than I had prepared. Working with Allied Irish Bank in the UK, and we cover Northern Ireland retail business banking, and then corporate banking in the UK as well, part of the wider Allied Irish Bank in the Republic of Ireland. And my background has been over a long period of years now in change and transformation, starting to move more recently, I suppose, into kind of innovation, and the same with all of us looking at how AI is going to influence in our day jobs, in how we deliver change and the change we deliver as well.
Now, I mean, you mentioned innovation there, Ben, which is a good segue into my first question for you, in that I mean, I know you've worked in regulated environments nearly all of your career from speaking with you. Banking is a very regulated industry, and obviously there's a lot of control in place and a lot of process and procedures. How have you found, or how are you finding implementing a culture of innovation in a space that's so highly regulated?
Good question. I think whilst financial services is highly regulated, working in a regulated environment does call for innovation in how you can optimize and deliver the most value within what the regulations will allow. Another sort of trick that I've kind of played to over the years is that regulatory change, so delivering the compliance with the regulations, always gets funded. There's never any question about delivering regulatory change and the funding that's required. You can do quite a lot of innovation off the back of that budget and that funding. So whilst regulatory change may not seem to be the kind of the natural kind of most fertile ground for innovation, it does tend to be where you can have the funding. And you can look as you comply with the regulation, how you can optimize, whether it's the processes, the technology, or the ways of working, or the environment that you create with that. So actually, you might feel that regulation stops or inhibits innovation. Well, you can decide that, and you can make that choice, or you can think innovatively about regulation and regulatory change and still take an innovative approach.
Do you actively kind of harness a culture of innovation, actively encourage stakeholders within the business to innovate, come up with ideas, and engage on moving the organisation forward?
I think that's an interesting one, actually, because if you ask people to innovate, it's almost a rabbit in the headlights. It's almost like when you're asking someone not to think about something, they think about something, that very thing. If you ask people to innovate, they start to stumble and go, well, of course we're innovative, but what do you mean by innovation? And it feels like an increasing pressure. And I can't remember whether it's top down or senior management saying, "Hey, we've got to be innovative about this or innovate." So I wonder whether it's something that sort of flies underneath the radar, or actually is more of a bottom up community guerrilla movement that where innovation flourishes. And I think you're right mentioning culture of innovation. You can have all the best innovation tools and platforms. You can have all the best tools for your work, but if the culture and the mindset doesn't exist for innovation, you just won't be innovative. But I think again, you need to work at that. You need to point out where people actually have been innovative without maybe recognizing or appreciating it. Create the environment where people can innovate, try things out, experiment, and we see a lot more of that with labs and sort of some of the sandbox environments. You need to start with the culture and the mindset and the belief that you are innovative to sort of really be innovative going forward.
Yeah, I like that point about helping people to identify where they're already innovating, because I think you're quite right. No, that's not really recognised in a lot of organisations. And maybe that is a good vehicle, a good starting point for, if you celebrate stuff that's already going on, it's a good vehicle to encourage people to do more innovation when they see that other people are getting recognised for what they're doing.
Yeah, we hear a lot that we're not innovative, we don't innovate, but it comes back to what your definition of innovation is. And some people's definition of innovation is going to be the moonshot, the man on Mars, etc. But I feel you can innovate with ways of working. You can innovate with your relationships or your interaction with other teams. Innovate in how you have meetings. You can innovate with pretty much everything. So it doesn't have to be technology based. And I think sometimes innovating outside of the technology and the high and the expensive sphere of innovation allows you to build that culture and mindset and the belief that that innovation is accessible to everyone and everyone can innovate.
Agreed. And I think I'd agree with you that quite often there's a focus on transformational innovation, as in what we might think of as huge, game-changing things that come out. But I think there's a lot of value from incremental change that you can embed through innovation. So couldn't agree more. Now, when we look at change, and I know you've been involved again in change for a long time. One of the things has always perplexed me is that organisations are very happy, or relatively happy, to invest in project delivery. We've got this new thing or a new piece of technology or a new way of working. We'll invest in the actual project to create it, and there'll be a project manager and delivery teams and everything else, and the product, as we might call it, will get delivered. But then when it comes to actually embedding that in the organisation, the change management piece, organisations quite often seem to be very reticent to invest heavily in that space. There's almost this perception that once you've created something, everyone will use it. Have you found that's been the case, and is that still the case?
Actually, I think it's going to kind of maybe sort of ironically, it will change as we move into the AI age. When I attend conferences or roundtables with regards to AI, the AI experts who tend to be data scientists kind of say the most important thing, as well as the technology, is change management, and it's quite refreshing to hear that as someone who's worked in change. But my kind of views on change management is that over a long period of time, it's been the sort of unheralded aspect of change. Quite often the missing piece in the jigsaw puzzle, or seen as whether it's misunderstood or kind of a luxury role. Change management or business readiness, sometimes it's kind of, well, why is the project manager not doing that? And actually, there's a lot of project managers who say, why should I do that? It's not my role. So I don't think that helps. But equally, change management just means a communication plan that gets tagged on to the end of the project. So it's whether project managers should have been doing more change management, or whether if you involve the business more in your projects, you would have natural change management. I do see it as an important discipline. Now, going back to AI, where we are going to be changing the way people work, we're going to be bringing AI team members into the room, into the business. We're going to be bringing AI into the workflow. That is kind of a seismic change, probably the biggest we'll have ever seen in our careers. And having the change management, having kind of the view on how humans will react emotionally, psychologically to that change, having the change manager in the room to help with that process, I think is going to be key to help us all move through it and allow us to move into that new working environment.
I think it was a film. Was it A Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, where he said, if we build it, they will come. And I feel that's been the philosophy for organizations. If we create something, people will use it. I mean, I couldn't agree more about the AI thing. I think just giving people tools giving people Copilot, for example, and hoping it's going to make a massive difference to the way they work.
There's a difference between just turning on, just switching on AI or Copilot, and actually hand-holding or working in partnership. So we've based our Copilot rollout on the ADKAR change management framework. Because not only does it provide a really nice stepping stone roadmap through the stages, it's something that people can understand when we say we're taking you through this stage, and this is why we're trying to create desire or knowledge and how we're doing it. But it also allows us to build some metrics around that, so you can see whether you're being effective. And I feel that is different to just turning on the technology. I also think I'll get myself into kind of deep water here, but with psychology, with neuroscience, with a better understanding of how us humans think. There's obviously always been models around this, whether it's change management or things like Kubler-Ross or others, which some people don't like. That greater understanding of the human brain with neuroscience, psychology, etc., and bringing that into the field of change management is going to make change management not only more effective, but more interesting, and maybe more sort of recognised as a really core skill as we bring AI to work alongside the human. So I think that's going to be an interesting space going forward as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see it organisations talk about it, and we'll finish on the change piece, but for me, it needs to be a core discipline in a business. If you create something and only 20% of people use it, you've only got 20% of the benefit. What you want is as much of the benefits you can get, and you've got to change people to as part of that. But coming out of the whole delivery process, the transformation process, we've got lessons, and I guess linked to this whole thing is lessons learned. How do you feel that organizations can really, as part of change and transformation, embed this culture of lessons learned and feedback loops and really understanding and so that next time things happen differently if they need to?
In my experience with delivering change, there's certain things that never really happen, but we always talk about. So I'm thinking around steering committees who throw in the risk management right at the end. And they go, actually, we've run out of time, so we're not going to we never do the raids or the risk management. And then benefits management. I've rarely seen, it's been talked about a lot, but I've rarely seen the discipline around benefits management. And then that brings me to lessons learned as well. Lessons learned, we talk about it, and maybe I would say I've probably involved in 5 or 6 lessons learned sessions over the period of my career. It's talked about but rarely done. And then if someone does bother to write up the results, luckily we've got Copilot now to write up the results. They get sent around by email and that's it. And I think with change, the joke, the only thing that's constant is change. But where we are constantly changing, the chances that the time to give to lessons learned is becoming even rarer. But I think this is where Agile gets it right with its discipline around retrospectives and that being ingrained into the ways of working. And I think that's the clue. If you really are serious about lessons learned and learning from your mistakes and creating psychological safety to experiment, etc., you really need to ingrain the process of learning from our lessons into your ways of working don't just wait to the end of the 3-year project to do the lessons learned. As with Agile, do it at the end of every sprint or whenever's determined in their timeline. Yeah, the answer is Agile in this.
I like that.
Into your process and have some discipline and transparency around it, such that people go, why didn't we do the retrospective? Why didn't we do the lessons learned? Why are we just doing the same thing again? And that's when it starts to get done.
Yeah, because you're quite right. It's always typically it's done post project, and people have forgotten what's going on, and they're much more interested in the next.
Moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, and that's almost the same. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about benefit management. It's one of my favourite things to talk about, but because for me that's the same thing. Is that I've spoken at events and talked about benefit realisation and asked people, how important is benefit realisation? 99% of the audience say yes, it's absolutely key. Our organisation really wants to do it. And then when you ask the question, how many of you do it well? It's a brave person who puts their hand up. Have you ever seen, benefit realisation done well? Accountable ownership, people post-project reporting back, we got the value we expected. And for me, that's part of lessons. If you don't do that, how can you learn as well?
I think you know the answer, don't you? It was a rhetorical question, wasn't it? So I think, how a benefit's done, they can be done up front with a huge sort of intensive business case. And we spend a lot of time and effort crystal ball gazing and writing the business case. Project gets delivered. Everyone's moved on. Business case is forgotten. There's no accountability afterwards to go back and check that business case. And in fact, we're probably 6 to 12 months late on the delivery of the project because we spent so much time on the business case. Then, again, in the same way that I think Agile has helped with the kind of growth mindset and with lessons learned with the retrospectives, the introduction of OKRs, certainly within a scaled Agile environment, is a step in the right direction. But I also find OKRs some people love them, some people loathe them. They become too complicated. They become a bit too niche. If you get locked in the room with the OKR expert, you'll be wanting to leave and you'll never want to think about OKRs and benefits again. So I think that's a pendulum that can swing too far. Everyone has just plays it lip service, or we go to the nth degree on doing our OKRs, and then we forget about delivering benefits. So I think it kind of goes back to your KPIs and metrics. KPIs and metrics, you need to measure what's important, and you need to measure what is easy and understandable to people. And I think 3 metrics I would always use for benefits is the value, whether your value is return on investment, whether it's revenue, but put some sort of financial simple dollar that you want to see. Then I think the other 2 factors that are really, really important will tell you whether you're doing the right thing and getting a return on your investment is employee NPS. Are your staff happy? Are they motivated? Are they enthusiastic? Or did that change kill them? Or is the culture killing them and they don't want to get out of bed in the morning? And then are your customers happy? Are they responding well? Are they giving you good feedback? Are they responding well to customer surveys? So if you can see the bottom line going up and you can see that you've got happy customers and you can see you've got happy staff, those are just 3 really simple measures that everyone can understand, that don't need a PhD in data science to understand, and are probably easy to track, and therefore will get people to look back and go, hey, that project did deliver, or the way we're working did deliver. So keep it simple and very accessible.
I'm a great fan of pragmatism. 80-20, my team will hear me talk about it all the time. It's the 80-20 rule, isn't it? Find something that's achievable. It's the last 20 where you get into the real weeds of things that take you forever and you never deliver. Yeah, like it. Now, You've authored a book, the Visual Agile Coach Playbook. Tell me a little bit more about how the visual communication works and enhances delivery.
Oh, okay. Myself and my co-author, Alina Glindevi, who's a very talented artist and an agile practitioner. She put the visual and the agile into sort of like the coach and the playbook aspect. The reason we kind of, let's say, created visual agile coaching as a concept, A was for a bit of fun, but also not just the visuals, but the other content to create engagement. So we were thinking and writing about this in a post-pandemic, post-COVID environment where everyone had sort of been sent to their spare rooms, sent to their kitchen tables, and even now people aren't really back in the office, and we'll have some people in and some people out. There's a lot of people remote calling in, and you're sitting there listening to someone talk, or you're watching a spreadsheet on the screen. And I don't believe that there's full engagement or participation or capture of people's interests. So the visual aspect was one way of capturing people's interests. Alina's visuals are very eye-catching. They're simple, they're compelling, they can boil down a message. So you've got someone involved, you've got their attention, which I think is more than half the battle. And then what we also did was use the visuals to either simplify some quite complex models or to create tools and templates that meant whether they're online or if you've got people, they're back in a room on a whiteboard, which is kind of my favorite way. You've got to put your phone down. You can't be on the screen with your camera off, looking at Instagram. You can't be sitting there trying to follow the Excel spreadsheet. You've got to get involved. There's a number of tools with whiteboards that allows you to get involved. Or if you've got to pick up a pen, Alina is kind of great in a workshop. She just gives someone a pen and says, get drawing, start expressing your thoughts visually. People have got to be engaged. They've got to be proactive. They've got to be active. And so that's really, the visuals were part of a wider piece on how we engage people, draw them in, get them to lean in, get them to participate, and then contribute and feel that they're part of something in a more collaborative sort of way of working.
Yeah, that's 100% symptomatic of where we are today, isn't it? I join meetings and you see people, because they're so busy and they're not in the same room as you, they start doing, and you can see from their eyes that they're doing something completely different to focused on a meeting. So
if you think about it, I will happily confess that when I'm in a meeting, I'm checking my Teams channel, I'm checking my emails, I'm probably doing a PowerPoint presentation as well. Then maybe one of my kids has contacted me, so I'm picking up my phone, and I'm not at all. I'm not in the room. I'm probably giving 10 to 15%. Whereas if I'm actively engaged, whether it's through a whiteboard or if I'm in the room with it, whether it's something as simple as Post-its or drawing on whiteboards, it's hard not to be engaged. And I think you then start to value the human interaction, whether it's through remote, say whiteboards, or in the room. You start to then value the human interaction you can have. We had our COO conference, 200 or so people together into the room a week or so again, and the amount of energy and ideas that we used innovation as a theme. Actually, you'll be pleased to hear that we got from those 2-hour sessions was phenomenal. That's why I'm in Belfast today, sorting through about 300, 400 Post-it notes to identify all the great innovative ideas we generated from bringing people together in the room and engaging them.
I think that's my takeaway from that is definitely. I don't think we do enough. We're a very remote company, just by the nature of our business. And I think my takeaway from that is absolutely thinking of using whiteboards more often in my internal meetings to try and engage people, to keep people occupied. Now, if we move on a little bit, as I guess you talked about AI at the start of the session, and it's going to impact all sectors. What do you think if you can, it's a bit crystal ball, isn't it? But within the financial services sector, what's the kind of biggest impacts that you see coming from the AI wave that we're seeing today?
Well, the easy answer is I've got no idea, to be honest, and I don't think anyone has. But you can look at, and you can't cover them all. So there's certainly the customer service aspect, and that whether we're all started to experience the chatbots or the agents when we call through to a helpline. So financial services have customers, so our customers are going to be serviced through AI agents, and I think that's certainly one area. Then I think we will be looking at process, and there will be AI in the workflow, and how we embed that AI in the workflow is really, really key. But to be honest, that's not that different to the conversations we've been having about automation and RPAs for a long time now. So maybe if you haven't fully automated your workflows, you can just skip straight to an AI automation of the workflow. But it's the same principles. You're looking at your workflows, you're looking for the risks, you're looking for the efficiencies, you're looking for the opportunities to optimize, you're looking for the opportunities to change the process completely, because you don't want to just double down and introduce AI to a process that's not working. So I think we're going to see operational efficiency, we're going to see a reduction in risk through the increase of automation. But it's not that different a conversation. And there's obviously lots of sort of trading and kind of asset management, investment management opportunities for AI. And again, I can't contemplate those, and I'm not within that sector, so I'm not even going to try and embarrass myself by talking about that. But what I think the opportunity, and it's not just financial services, is as you introduce AI into your business, into your workflow, you can do one or two things. You can just replace humans and go, hey, I've got an AI tool solution that will do your job for you. But as you introduce those AI agents and you create an AI estate, an infrastructure, an AI army, you're going to need AI estate managers, AI estate infrastructure, and that will create new roles around that. Regulation, we already have the EU AI Act, requires that where an AI agent or an AI solution can impact a human, you need human oversight of that. So I think the regulation is going to keep us on the straight and narrow and require humans in the loop. But what I do hope is that some of those jobs that are humdrum and pretty sort of mundane and repetitive and high risk, or maybe dangerous, whether it's physically or safely, can be replaced responsibly with AI, and then that leaves us to be more creative, have more fun, work on the things that are our passion project, on the things that give us real purpose. And that's the kind of stuff that we included in the Visual Agile Coach Playbook. And when I work with my teams, very, very, very simple ethos of getting the right people on the right work at the right time. Because I believe if you can get the right people on their right work at the right time, they show up better, they get out of bed in the morning, they have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, they have purpose, they're excited, they're enthusiastic, they're engaged, and you'll get a better result for the business, which goes back to those metrics. Is the revenue going up? Are the customers happier? Are your staff happier? If you can get that triumvirate, then you're on the right tracks as a successful business.
Love that. And I love the way you've articulated the benefit of AI there, because for me, I look just personally at what I spend my time doing. I spend a lot of time doing things that really aren't high value, but they have to be done. And if I could get AI to do some of those more repetitive process things that occupy time, I could deliver a lot more value to the business. So I agree. Hopefully we'll see this shift. And I did read some stats recently that actually showed that AI will increase employment rather than reduce it because of the change in roles.
I had a little bit of fun with AI the other day, and I asked it what the type of new roles for humans that AI would create. And there was loads of them. And to be honest, I didn't understand what 80% of them were. They all sounded very technical. Some sounded quite fun as well. Some are probably completely made up and will never exist whatsoever. But I did take quite comfort in that there were lots of them. And then you start to understand how the humans and AI fit together in that infrastructure, in that AI state. You need the humans in the loop for safety and control, but you're looking at augmentation, and hopefully AI does the boring stuff and we do the fun stuff.
Love it. Now, I've got one final question for you, Ben. We met through the technology side of things, and as part of your work at AIB, Accelerating Transformation, you identified the need for technology to underpin the processes, and I'm always intrigued to kind of understand what were the key drivers for you to set out on getting an end-to-end solution to help with this transformation side of life.
Okay. When we look back, say, agile ways of working, for example, there is a lot of excitement around the tools such as Jira or Confluence, and the technology that, and then sort of like the metrics that create. But the technology is just a tool, in my view. Sorry, that probably wasn't.
I agree.
It's just a tool. It's not a magic wand. What I'm excited about with the technology that we've brought in for innovation is that it starts to provide what I see as an environment or an ecosystem to facilitate transformation and specifically our innovation. It's a place that people can go in with the environment and the ecosystem that allows them and encourages and facilitates them to be innovative. It won't make them innovative. It helps them to be innovative. It guides them to be innovative. They have to be innovative themselves. And therefore, I need to create the environment, the culture, the mindset, the belief, the delivery, because the tool won't deliver the innovation either, out the back end and by the business. So it works symbiotically within our wider innovation piece. But you need the culture, the mindset, the belief. You need the delivery capabilities. But I do feel the technology here will be a catalyst for more innovative thinking, because it will make it easier. It will guide people, and it will be their place, I think, that they go to apply some innovative thinking. And if I can marry that up with AI, that it takes away some of their load of their day job, so they have capacity to go in and be innovative, then it's a win-win in that respect.
And that for me is the perfect answer, Ben.
I was worried that we were going to cut the call there immediately, and hopefully we're there in the end.
I know I work for a technology vendor, but for me, technology is absolutely not the solution. It's the enabler, and if you don't get the culture and the process embedded and working, then the technology is not going to deliver very much at all. So perfect answer, perfect way to end the call for me. And honestly, thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule, especially travelling over to the offices as well in Northern Ireland. So much appreciated. And thanks again for the time, Ben.
Cool. Thanks very much, Ivan. Appreciate it.